Hi and welcome to this next lesson. So we're getting everything set up for the transit. We've done the free radius, we've done the GUI front end, we've tested the link to MySQL. So for anything related around a transit ISP, and in fact for your own network, most people will want to utilize their own DNS servers as well. So we're going to build a very quick and a basic DNS server with bind. Again on Ubuntu 22.04. So the reason we're going to use bind is that a lot of companies do use this and utilize this system. It's not too difficult once you get used to it. Okay, so initially we'll just start with the single server as we have with the free radius. After we've built the rest of the network, we'll go into how you can build clusters, how we can utilize more than one DNS and Anycast, etc. But for the moment, let's continue with the building of this server. So I've built the basic server, I've done the apt update and the upgrade. So we're at the point now where we install the systems themselves. So let's start with apt install, and we're going to install bind 9, it's called. We're going to do the bind 9 utils. Let's do the bind 9-doc as well, and we'll put a /y on the end of it. So let's install these first. We'll get this installed and then we'll start with the configuration work. Okay, so that's the installation process completed. Let's clear the screen. So one of the files that we can look at is if we're going to use bind exclusively for IPv4 and not with IPv6. I mean, you don't have to do this, but you can make it this way, and from a security perspective, it's a little bit better. We can edit a file called named, which is housed under etc default. Okay, so it's etc default named, and I'll show you. So at the end here, in where it says options equals -u bind, we can put a space in there and a -4, and then we can save that file. Okay, and then we restart the bind process. What that basically does is it says, I only want IPv4, I don't want IPv6. Okay, so but I'm going to leave mine. You can leave yours as well. So let's come out of that. So what's the next thing we have to do? Well, we have to configure the named.conf.options file. So if we actually start with that file, it's in etc bind. Okay, so we're going to vi that file. And one of the first things you might want to do is ensure that you are utilizing the correct FQDN. I am just going to be putting a test one in here. Okay, so it's just a made up one. If you're going to do the same, you obviously need to ensure that that's not being utilized somewhere else. If you're also going to have 8888 and 8844 of Google's DNS servers listed. Okay, so let's go into here. Okay, and the first thing we can do, and I'll do this for my system, is you can make an ACL if you want, so that only trusted addresses, excuse me, so that only trusted addresses can access this. Okay, so all we do is we put in here ACL, and I'm just going to call it, you can call it whatever you want because it's this name that we're going to be calling further on. So we can put in there trusted, and we'll open up the parentheses, and then we want our addresses. So the addresses for me are going to be 192.168.16.10. Right. Okay, it's because I haven't sudo s'd yet. So I have. So yeah, so in this file, we're going to produce an ACL so that only trusted devices can access the system. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put in here ACL, we're going to call it trusted. Okay, and then we're going to open some parentheses. So we'll open the parentheses. Then we're actually going to put in our addresses that we want. So we're going to put in here 192.168.16.10, which is this system. Okay. So what I'll do here is I will also tab across one, and I'll just put a comment in there so that I know what it's for. So I'm going to comment there, and I'm going to put DNS 01. Okay. Then I need 192.168.16.11. I haven't done a secondary DNS yet, but I'm putting this in there ready. So DNS 02. Then I need 192.168.16.150. This is, as you know, our free radius server. And 192.168.16.160, and I'm just going to put that as test server. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to close the parentheses, and we need to put a semicolon there. Then we move into the options because we've got some bits that we need to add in here. So underneath where it says directory, let's leave a space as well there. We're going to do, we want recursive on, okay, and I'll put a description afterwards as well here. So we'll put recursive yes, and here we're going to go across quite a bit, and we'll put, I don't know, let's leave a space there. Enables recursive queries, okay, and then we'll put in the next one, which is allow recursion, and sorry, we need to make sure we put a semicolon after each one. So allow recursion, and we're only going to allow it on our trusted. Remember, this is what we named our ACL above. Okay, and then we're going to close the parentheses, and we are going to put a semicolon in there, and we'll put a description in here. Allow recursive queries from ACL trusted clients. Okay, and then a third line, we're going to put in here listen on, and again, open the parentheses, and it's this server, so 192.168.16.10, and we need to put a semicolon there, space, close the parentheses, semicolon, and we'll put a description in here. So this is DNS 01 private IP address, and we'll just say listen on private network, listen on private network. Okay, and then in here we're going to do allow transfer. So this is going to be between the systems, and we're going to state this as none. Okay, semicolon space, close parentheses, semicolon. Let's put a little comment in here as well. Disable zone transfers by default. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to pop in there a couple of forwarders. So let's put in here forwarders. Okay, and we're going to again open parentheses, and we're going to put in there 8.8.8.8. Let's put a semicolon in there as well, and 8.8.4.4. Okay, and then we're going to close that with a semicolon, with a close parentheses and a semicolon. Now we can save and close that file, so WQ that. So that's the named.conf.options file. You may need to add more than that, you may not. I'm showing you the basics there. Okay. Next up, we have to configure the named.conf.local file. So that is under etc. bind as well. So let's do that now. Okay, so we've got configurations that we want to put in here. So we'll start here. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is create our zones. Okay, so I've created some already, so I'm just going to copy and paste this, but I'll explain as I go. So the first zone, I've just called it DNS01 caling.example.com. Okay, and I know that doesn't exist anywhere. I've already tested it. So what type is it? Okay, it's primary. Okay, and we want the semicolon, and again we'll just put a description in. So we'll just put in there, this is the primary zone. Okay, and then underneath we'll put in here, where are our files, our config files for this zone, i.e. A records, etc. Where's it going to be kept? So we have to tell the system where that is going to be. So we're going to say in here file, okay, and we're going to say etc. bind zones, and I've called it, you don't have to, you can call this whatever you want, but I've called it intuitive because it's going to be database related. So I've called it DB and then the actual dns1.caling.example.com. Okay. So what we'll do here is we'll just put in there, we'll say, this is the zone file path. Okay. Let's just tidy that up a bit a minute. Let's just move this forward so that it kind of goes where that one does. Let's move that back one and then tab it. No, okay, back to there. Tab, doesn't matter. Let's space that one just so it looks neat. Right, okay. And then we need to put in here allow dash transfer. So we're going to open parentheses, we're going to put 192.168.16.11 semicolon, close parentheses, semicolon. Okay, and let's tab across to there as well for this one. This is the private address of DNS02. Okay. So, you know, as I've said, this is just made up really, the DNS02, because we don't have that existing currently at the moment. So now what we want to do is we need to close off the parentheses, semicolon. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to do one for the so now what we're going to do is we're going to do one for the reverse lookup, okay, for the reverse DNS lookup. So again, we'll do the zone, but we have a specific requirement of a name after. Okay, so let's pop this in there. So what we've got here is we're basically stating the first two octets. So we're going to be utilizing a /16. Okay, now if yours is 172.16. whatever, you can do more than this if you want, but if you're going to go further across to 3 octets, then you have to put that in, and you'll see how this ties together as we go through this. Okay, so let's go to type primary again, Okay, and again, we have to put in our file requirements. So I have mine down here. So let me just grab those requirements. Okay, so the file requirements are, sorry, I had to make a quick change to the correct IP address. Okay, so I'm going to call it db.192.168. That's the actual file. So again, I can do, let's just put in there we can just copy this one, look, because it's exactly the same, but it keeps it nice and neat and tidy. So let's put this one in. Again, it's the zone file path. We'll pop that in there. Okay, and the next one, again, we want to allow transfer, open the parentheses, 192.168.16.11, semicolon, close parentheses, semicolon, and we will pop in there this again. So let's pop that in there. And then we need to close off the parentheses and a semicolon. All right. So now we can save and close this file. Okay, if you're all happy with that. There may be more that you need to put in yours, but for this example that we're doing, that's all that's required. So let's save that one. So now what we have to do is we have to now create and we have to create the directory and the files that we've just created in there. You remember we created the two files under the two zones. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is let's go to /etc//bind, and the reason we have to create the directory is because if we do an ls-la, there is no zones directory there. So let's go ahead and make the directory zones as we're in there. If you're not in this directory and you did it outside, we'll just do an etc/bind zones. Okay. And if we do an ls-la again now, you'll notice we now have the directory zones. Okay, here, look, directory. Okay, so what we can do now is we can do a vi /etc//bind /zones. Now, what did we call the first file? So the first file was this one. So I'm just going to grab this and pop it in here. Okay, you remember this is what we called it, db.dns01.kalin.example.com. Okay. In fact, actually, we're not going to do that. So the next thing we need to do is we need to copy a file that's called db local in etc/bind. If we have a look, so we have db local, and the reason we use this is because it creates the initial setup for us. Okay, so we need to copy that into the file location and name that we configured in the previous section. So we're copying db local into etc/bind zones and this name here, db.dns01.kalin.example.com, which is what I used in the previous conf.local file that we just did. Okay, so I'm copying it, but I'm renaming it as well to that file. So we're going to do that now. Then we can vi that file. So if we do a vi /etc//bind /zones /db, and it should just come up with that one. And this is why we use this, because it's got this data in here already. Okay, so the first thing we need to change is the SOA entry, because it needs to be our FQDNs. The dot at the end must stay there. Okay, so let's grab that a minute and put that in there. So if we pop in there this, which is the FQDN, and in here we need to put admin and the FQDN, but the dot again must remain at the end, the full stop must remain at the end. So this time it's just the FQDN, but with admin at the front of it, as you will see. Okay. So the important bit to remember here is the serial number. Every time you make a change in here, you must change this serial number or it won't work. So what I like to do is I like to use the date, and you could theoretically use a time as well. But I just use the date initially. But if you need to change it a couple of times in a day, then you're going to need another number on the end of it as well. Okay, so I'm going to remove that. I'll go back a little bit. So 2023 and today's date is 0728. Okay, so I'm now going to move that across so it looks nice and neat. And the rest of this you can keep the same for the moment. Okay, so we'll remove these entries because we don't need these. These are just example entries. And so in here, we're going to put our NS records, which are our name server records. So let's go up one. Let's pop this. This is just a comment. So we're going to put here name servers, and we're going to call it NS records. I already have this prepared, but you'll see exactly what I'm doing here. So let's just tidy this up so that it's more obvious what it is that's going on. Let's tab that once. We'll bring that back to there, bring that back one, and bring that back one. So all I've entered here is the two DNS server addresses, or names, should I say, that we're going to be utilizing, okay, for the FQDN. All right. So let's move on, and now under here we add in our A records for all the systems that we want to add A records for. Okay, so again, name servers, and this time it's A records. And in here, I've already got this set up again. So I'm going to put the A records in. So I've got the 4 systems. So what I'm going to do is just, it's come up red because it needs to be taken back. So we'll do that, that, and that. Let's just make that a little bit neater so we can bring that back one. Sorry, there, that one as well. And we'll do the same with the addresses. Okay, so that's all the A records completed. Now what we can do here is we can save and close the file. So that's the first one set up, but we have a second one as well, if you remember, which is the secondary is the reverse zone. So again, this time we're going to copy the DB127 file. So if we do an ls-la, you'll see that in here, the DB127. Okay, so we're going to copy that file, and we're going to create our directory. We're going to move it, copy it into the directory with the recursive, the reverse lookup name that we created in the named.conf. Okay, which was db.192.168. So we're copying that here into there. Okay, so let's do that. And then we are going to vi that file. So let's vi that. And it's very similar to the one that we've just completed. So we are going to correct this to be exactly what it should be, which is the FQDN and the admin FQDN. So let's get the FQDN up again. Remember, the full stop must be on the end, the dot. Okay, and the admin. So we can put in there admin dot, and then as we've still got that in memory, and again the serial number, we must change this again. All right, so I'm going to go back a little bit. 2023 0728. Okay, let's move that across so it's nice and neat. Let's come back one. There we go. Right, now we need to remove these two PTR records. So these are what will be called PTR records, okay, for the reverse lookup. So in here, we're going to put PTR records. So just bear with me one moment. So first of all, we need the name servers again in here. So let's put the name servers in. Okay, and these are the NS records again. Okay, so let's put these two servers in. I'm going to copy it again because it's just going to be quicker. Again, we'll just tidy it up so we can delete that. Let's just make this a little bit tidier again. Okay, so that's our name server records again. That's just the DNS servers. You can obviously pause the video here. And now we need to put in our PTR records. Now, this is going to look a little bit strange. All right, so what we need to put in here is 16.10. Now, the reason we need to do that is because this comes under 192.168. So remember, it's a /16. So actually, all we need to enter at the beginning here is the last two octets of our IP addresses, because the first two are catered for already, the 192.168 for me. It could be something different for you. Okay, so then we have the in, then we have our PTR, and then we have the name of our servers, and so the full FQDN with the name of the server as well. So I can pop that in there like that. Then I give it the full IP address. Okay, so now I give it 192.168.16.10. Then we do the same with the next one, which is 16.11 in PTR, and this one is DNS02. Then I need to tab across. Let's make that a little bit more spacious. Space 192.168.16.11. Now I need to put in there my 16.150. And I need to do in PTR. And this time it's free radius dot, and then that's because I haven't written it down on the other one, and then this followed by 192.168.16.150, then 16.160 in PTR. This one is test. Remember, we're just calling this one test. So we'll Control C that. We'll pop that in there. Semicolon and the full address 192.168.16.160. Okay, now we can save and close that file, which is what we've done. Now we can check the configuration, because normally what happens is, because of all the semicolons, etc., normally there's a typo or something like that. So we can do a named, and if it comes back with nothing and just goes back to the shell command prompt, then everything's good. Okay, so we do a check conf. Oh, right, okay, so yep, there we go. I'm missing semicolons here. So that's in the named.conf.options. So we can do vi / etc. / bind named.conf.options. So let's have a look at where I've missed it. There we go, up there. So I'll have missed it on all of these, which is where we actually need that information on the ACL as well. Okay, So as I said, it's quite easy to get typos. So it's good that that was forgotten. That shows you a little bit of troubleshooting that you can pop in there. Okay. And I think there was a recursive one as well. So we'll have a look at that one in a moment. So let's have a look now and see what we've got. Line 11, recursive. So let's go to that again and have a look at line 11. That's because I've spelt it wrong. It's recursion, not recursive. So my apologies for that. But again, it's typos. It's good to have this issue so that I can show you it, how to rectify it. Okay, so now if we do it again, there we go. So we're clear with that. And we can also check our actual files that we created within the zones area. So what we can do is we can do a check zone, and we can give our FQDN and the location. So I'm doing a check zone, the actual zone within the files, and then the actual file name itself. Okay, and it comes back and tells me, yep, all okay. So it gives me the serial number, and it gives me the zone, and it tells me that it's all okay. So I should now be able to do a system CTL restart bind 9. And if I do a system CTL status bind 9, it's working and there's no issues. Now, how do we test that? Okay, so I've opened up the free radius server that we previously built. So the first thing we want to do is we need to look at the net plan to make sure that we have the new DNS server in our named servers. Okay, so let's have a look at net plan and this file, and do we have it there? Yes, we do. Okay, so what we can do is we can do NS. We could also do a dig. We'll do an NS lookup, and we'll use 192.168.16.10. Okay, we want to search for, let's do this server first then. So we can do free radius dot, and we called this DNS01.kling, .kling.example.com. Let's see if it comes back with an address, and there we go. There's the address that it's come back with. Let's try the test system then. So we can do, for example, let's have a look at test, and it comes back with 160. Okay, let's do DNS01. See what it comes back with. There you go. It comes back with 10. What about DNS02? And it comes back with 11. So this shows us that it's all working. You may have to do different entries for obviously your DNS side of things. But as we go through this build, what we'll do is we'll add entries to it anyway. So you'll see how we can control geolocation, for example, as just one example of what we can do with the bind system. Okay, I hope you're happy with that. If you have any questions, as always, just let me know. Thank you. Bye-bye.